Welcome to Gloucester, Massachusetts, a city that should bring automatic images to mind of its rich fishing history. Each day boats take off from its harbor, hoping to find their next big catch, and a profession that's not to be taken lightly. Many people have lost their lives out there in the fishing grounds, but there's no doubt these proud fishermen have seen their share of interesting things during a lifetime on the water. There's all kinds of wildlife like birds, whales, dolphins, and of course the great white sharks that have made their way back to New England waters. But there was one creature that could give even a great white a run for its money, and today it has seemed to elude modern-day seafarers. I'm of course talking about sea serpents. That's right, in the 17th and 18th century, sea serpent incidents occurred occasionally off the coast of New England. But by the 19th century, there were a consistent amount of credible eyewitness reports involving a creature described as being between 80 and 100 feet in length, with a head as broad as a horse and a horn protruding from its skull. It appeared so often in the harbor of Gloucester in the summer of 1817, it was said to be seen by almost everyone in town. Witnesses described the serpent as thick as a barrel, and reports weren't just coming out of Gloucester, but all across Cape Ann as well. A story like this raises some questions, like what went on that summer in Gloucester, and what were people actually seeing? To try and figure it all out, let's dig deep into the story, and then take a boat ride around the harbor to get a closer look at where the reports took place. One of the earliest sea serpent sightings goes back all the way to 1638, when world traveler John Jocelyn wrote about one that lay coiled up like a cable upon the rock at Cape Ann. This was a story that he heard from the locals. During the next 2 centuries, sea serpent incidents would occur occasionally off the coast of New England. Things would change by 1817, especially in Gloucester, where the serpent would make almost seasonal appearances. It started in the month of August, when 2 women claimed they saw a creature swimming in the harbor, as well as a captain of a coasting vessel around the same time nearby. Another early sighting came from a man named Matthew Gaffney. He was rowing a small boat across the main harbor when an enormous sea creature came to the surface, belching and hissing at him. Gaffney claims he even shot at the animal, only to watch it submerge itself underwater and appear 100 yards from where it originally sunk. More sightings would follow in the coming days, including one from a shipmaster. In a signed and sworn statement, he described what he believed to be a serpent with a head like a rattlesnake at the southward and eastward end of 10-Pound Island. Even the Justice of the Peace for Gloucester said he watched a strange creature cavort in the harbor for a half an hour. A commission in Boston was eventually formed to investigate all the reports of the sea serpent sightings, all from credible witnesses like military officers, captains, and clergymen. In fact, there weren't many locals who didn't catch at least an offshore glimpse of the monster in the harbor. The amount of eyewitness accounts that followed is astonishing, and enough to believe that the people of Gloucester were seeing something out there in the water. But what? And how come sightings haven't continued on today like the Loch Ness Monster over in Scotland? Well, it's been almost 200 years and we don't have as much as a picture to go off of. It's clear the people of Gloucester saw something. There's plenty of newspaper reports and other verifiable resources to confirm that. But there is no known creature that matches the descriptions that were given back in 1817. However, at one point in history there was an animal that was a very close match to the one seen in Gloucester. So case closed, right? Well, not exactly. The animal existed back in the age of the dinosaurs. Plesiosauria were a marine reptile that existed in the early Jurassic period. Some people believe that plesiosaurs and other members of their family escaped extinction and were able to live on, much like the modern-day crocodile. But if that's the case, then why haven't there been more sightings, and what happened to the one that used to baffle spectators along the New England seaboard? The logical assumption would be that this was all a case of mistaken identity. There's certainly a fair amount of ocean life that's known to exist that could have been misidentified for a sea serpent. Elephant seals, for example. They have a very serpent-like appearance when they stick their head out of water. They're also known to make loud roaring noises, especially during their mating season. Could this explain the belching and hissing sounds from the creature Matthew Gaffney shot at back in 1817? In some cases, it's certainly possible, especially after the initial reports. people may have been quicker to assume extraordinary over ordinary. The problem with the elephant seal theory is the northern ones only grow to about 14 to 16 feet. Some have been known to reach 20 feet, but that's nowhere near the 80 to 100 of the Gloucester sea serpent. The only thing in the ocean that we know of that's that large is the blue whale. Much like the elephant seal, it's likely a whale in some cases could have been misidentified as a sea serpent. Blue whales, however, are rare in New England. The chances of one appearing in the harbor as often as the sea serpent sightings is unlikely. Whaling had also already begun in America, and it's likely experienced fishermen and boat captains would have known the difference. So it's hard to say for sure what kept coming back to the shores of Massachusetts. Whatever it was that swam through these waters, it stopped coming around 1886 when the last wave of reports came in, with 13 total. By the 20th century, sea serpent sightings would become a thing of the past. There were less than 60, and most were before 1950. One of the last local sightings was off the coast of Marshfield in 1962. Nothing even comes close to what happened out of Gloucester back in the 1800s. And we may never know for sure what the locals were seeing out there in the ocean. That's what makes this such a great mystery. It may have been something as simple as an animal new to the area that set off a storm of misidentification that grew into legend. And then there's always the possibility of an elaborate hoax of some kind put on by a local that became sensationalized. Whatever it was, today it's almost unheard of. The last notable sighting came out of Fortune Bay, Newfoundland in 1997. Now you've heard the story and the reports, so what do you think? Monster or myth?